What if your the first half of your life wasn't all failure? In fact, it wasn't failure at all. It was formation. What if everything you've gone through, the wins, the losses, the restless nights, the regrets, it were never meant to be the whole story, but it was just practice for what's next? Because let's be honest, some of us thought we would be further down the road than we are. We thought the job would fulfill us. We thought marriage would be easier. We thought success would feel different. But here we are, 40 something, maybe 50, maybe even beyond, realizing that the first half didn't go quite like we planned. Not that you peaked early or I peaked early, we just started rough. And that's okay because the first half wasn't supposed to be perfect. It was supposed to prepare you. In fact, I have my own story that speaks this truth and tells how I stumbled onto a key that helped me refocus for this second half of life. It's a key I want to share with you. If you're interested, just click the link below this video. It's a free 5-day email course. You don't have to pay anything for it. And it's just going to kind of tell you my story a little bit. And it tells you how I discovered this blueprint to find purpose and significance after 40. And I believe you can do the same. You get a short email every day for 5 days. I believe it'll help you rediscover purpose and find significance for the second half of life. You see, we live in a culture obsessed with early success. I mean, lists like 30 under 30, the best young billionaires in the world, movies about young geniuses, social media posts where everybody's crushing it by breakfast. But the truth is, most of us don't peak early. I mean, we don't even understand ourselves until we've lived through some storms. Culture tells us that if you haven't made it by 40, you've missed your chance. Time's passed you on. You're an old man now. I mean, we bought into that lie. But God says, I've been preparing you for something deeper. See, the world glorifies the front half, the hustle years, the young years. But heaven often does its best work in the second half, when all the noise fades and when the soul starts to listen. Take Michael Jordan, retired shortly after 30, after a few world championships. The world thought his story was complete, but he came back. And it wasn't because he needed another ring, but because he realized even success can't fill the quiet space inside. The lesson is that success might get you applause, but it doesn't guarantee peace. And that's what we were striving after in our younger years. Success, because that's going to make us feel better. And maybe that's your story too. You worked hard, you did all the right things, you achieved some wins, but when the lights dimmed, you felt empty. I mean, have you ever sat there in your chair, recliner, thinking, man, I should be happier than this? What's going on? That's the myth of the early peak. It promises joy, but it rarely delivers real meaning. Here's the truth. And it's a great truth. The first half wasn't wasted. It was practice. And practice, if you let it, makes you ready. Think about it. Every athlete trains through drills and sweat and repetition and pain, but nobody really remembers the practice tapes. But without them, there's no highlight reel. And life's the same way. The first half gives you experience, but that second half, that's where you find meaning. Let's break this down. First of all, there's this preparation phase. But that first half's about building the skills you didn't know you needed later. All those jobs you hated, the bosses who frustrated you, and the times when you thought, man, I'm just done. Those times were shaping your endurance and shaping your wisdom. King David from the Bible wasn't crowned king overnight. In fact, even after being anointed king, he ended up spending years tending sheep and dodging spears, hiding in caves. Read it in the Old Testament. You hear it. It was all practice for eventually leading a nation. The preparation is never wasted. It's just hidden. And then after the preparation phase, there's that identity phase. In our 20s and 30s, we defined ourselves by what we do. Our titles, our paychecks, our possessions. But when all those things fade, or in some of our cases get stripped away, you're forced to ask, who am I without all of that? Who am I without all those possessions and without all that success? And that's when identity becomes character and character becomes calling. And then there's this hidden curriculum, because there's a secret syllabus to life. A secret syllabus to life. Every disappointment is a class. Every heartbreak, it's a homework assignment. Every failure is just feedback. You weren't flunking out. You did not flunking out. You flunk out. You were being formed. Your 20s and 30s build a resume, but your 40s and beyond build your legacy. I want you to think about this for a moment. Think about this. If you looked at your first half not as wasted time, but as training time, what lessons would stand out? If you looked back over the previous half of your life, what did I learn during that training? What lessons stand out to me? Maybe you learned patience. Maybe you learned empathy. Maybe you learned what really matters. And that brings good news. That means you're finally ready to play the real game. I mean, some of the greatest men in history didn't make it until later in life. We all know Abraham Lincoln's story, right? All of the elections that he lost way more than he won. He failed in business. He battled depression. And it wasn't until 52 years of age when he stepped into his destiny. His failures weren't the end. They were his foundation. They were what allowed him to build what he built. His second half wasn't about ambition. It was about redemption. Think about Colonel Sanders. Was broke, fired, rejected, and at 65 years old is when he started going door to door with a chicken recipe. Everyone else saw an absolute failure. Colonel Sanders saw one last shot, and that recipe became KFC and a global legacy. It wasn't the fried chicken that made his story powerful. It was the persistence. His persistence. I mean, I didn't realize this till recently. Steve Jobs, who built Apple, all the fire up and down, he spent a decade wondering. But in that wondering and in that learning, he birthed Pixar. What we know today, it was just a design company back then, but it turned into what we know it today, Steve Jobs. Eventually, his second act, he came back not as a kid chasing ideas, but as a man who learned restraint and patience and focus. He wasn't perfect, but that example shows us, we lived the first half as kids. The second half, we're called to be men. And maybe you're there right now. Your first half feels like it's over. But what if this is your pivot moment? What if this is where your story turns? Could it be that your best chapters haven't been written yet? That your purpose didn't peak in your 30s. It's just beginning to rise now. Let's talk about that word significance for a moment. See, success is about what you achieve for yourself. Accolades, trophies. Significance is about what you build into others, leaving something that lasts. Something changes in a man's heart around 40. And that's why I've been targeting this, starting this channel to target this and talk to you guys who are just like me. You start to care less about status and more about substance. You stop chasing more and you start craving meaning. We talked last video, we talked about this idea of reflection. I want you to do that again. I want you to ask yourself, what did the first half teach me? Where did I find joy? Where did I lose it? What was I chasing that did not last? Maybe what am I still chasing that's not lasting? Reflection isn't to be about regret. It's to be about recalibration. Reflecting. Second thing is this idea of releasing. Let go of the old scorecards. Let go of the old way you used to track what was really important. Stop trying to impress people who stopped watching you years ago. We got to stop worrying about other people and what they think. Stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Your practice tape to somebody else's highlight reel. You don't have to prove yourself anymore. We're past that. We're in the second half now, guys. We don't have to prove ourselves. We're not trying to impress anybody anymore. We're beyond that. We can't. Now, we just have to be ourselves. Let go of the scorecards and then rebuild. This is where the second half gets exciting. You start investing in what actually lasts, your faith, your family, mentoring, what you're leaving behind. You start giving more than getting. And ironically, that's when you start experiencing fulfillment. That's when fulfillment finally shows up. So what are you still chasing that no longer matters? And what would significance look like for you? Here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Stop seeing your first half as a failure. I know we can all point to stuff we wish we wouldn't have done or wish wouldn't have happened. We can all do that. We don't have time to live in that mindset. You do not have time to waste your moments living in failure. Instead, it's time to make a decision and change your mindset. That was all practice. It was all preparation. It was purpose disguised as pain. Hear me, you're not too late. You're not behind. You're right on schedule. This second half of your life is your chance to this time play with wisdom. Play the game with courage. Play the game with heart. The scoreboard doesn't matter anymore. I don't care what the score is. It does not matter how far you think you are behind. Does not matter. What matters is legacy. What matters is what you're building. That's why I created something. I mentioned a little bit ago. That's why I created something. It's free. It's not even. It doesn't even cost you anything. But it's just something very simple to get your mind thinking. It speaks this truth I've been talking about. It tells how I stumbled onto a key that has helped me and then still helped me refocus for this second half of life. If you're interested, click the link below. It's a free 5-day email course. It tells you how I discovered a blueprint for purpose and significance after 40. And I believe you can do the same. It's not theory, it's action. Because legacy doesn't happen by accident. It is purposely built, one intentional day at a time. So as we wrap this video up, hear me clearly. The first half wasn't a waste. It was practice. Every struggle, every win, every scar, it's just all been building you for what's next. This is your time to stand. This is your time to build something that lasts. This is the kind of content I'm going to be putting out every week on this channel, so subscribe to the channel if you want weekly videos like this. I'm on your side. We're in this together. We're going to go deep on purpose and legacy and the second half of life on this channel. So subscribe. And don't forget, grab that free 5-day email course. It just might be that nudge for you. It just might be that encouragement that you need to be that turning point that you've been waiting for. Because your story isn't over. It's just getting started. The first half was practice. Now it's game time. See you next week.